So in this video, I'm going to show you how to set up a p5.js project on glitch.com. So p5.js allows you to create your own sketches online through the editor, which is really nice and really clean. It has the minimum amount of functions and options that you need to create simple projects. However, for this class, we're going to try to use this platform called glitch.com, which allows for teams, for multiple users to work together and share projects and even code into each other projects in the same way you can sort of like type into each other's shared documents in Google Docs. So it's similar. Imagine Google Docs for coding. Once you log in Glitch, you should be presented with the normal homepage, but you should have immediately a link, a panel showing you your most recent projects and some more like customized things. So make sure that you create your own account with a name that I can recognize and with possibly an avatar that I can associate to you. If you want to create a glitch project, you can just start a new project and create a page from a template, essentially. Glitch has a few templates that are not really applying to us, but you can just be aware you can do that. What I think it's probably more convenient for you is to just join the group, our class group, which is EMS 2020, and you have a link on the main website, and you can just start from a project from an empty template that I provide. For example, this p5 empty. So this is a basic template for a p5 project. So you can click on it and then also edit the project because there's not much to see. And this is essentially the editor view. So here you have a few things. You have like your assets and all of your files that are containing your project. The first file that is displayed here is a README file. It's just basically a text file that shows you what this thing is. The main index.html is the first file traditionally that a browser looks for. So this is kind of like your starting point for everything. And in p5, in the case of p5, essentially has a link to the libraries that are the p5 library, the sound libraries. And this is almost identical to what you have here if you create a new project in the p5, in the official p5 editor. You have an index, a sketch, and a style sheet. So the index, again, is the first thing that the browser sees. It loads the libraries that you don't need to know how they work. They are just remotely stored in a Cloudflare server. It loads a style.css. It's a cascade style sheet that allows you to change some parameters about the page that contains your canvas. And more importantly, the sketch.js, which is the program that you end up using almost all the time. That's the main thing that you're gonna change and modify in this class. So the sketch. A typical p5 sketch is structured this way. It has a setup function, a draw function. The setup function is it launched once, creates a canvas element in the index.html. And then you have a draw function that is essentially what happens every 60 times per second. Because we are using Glitch and not the dedicated web editor that comes with p5, I needed to add this kind of awkward commented section here, which is basically a way to tell the online code editor to ignore some of the keywords that p5 uses. That means that Glitch has essentially a syntax correction thing, and kind of like an autocorrect that shows you immediately, hey, this is probably a problem because I don't know anything that is name, f, d, f, whatever. And the same thing for the syntax syntax errors. If you forget a parenthesis or something, glitch, much like the P5 web editor, will tell you before you even launch the project that there is a problem there, a parsing error in this case. So you can just do a minimum of debugging, at least in regard to the syntax within the editor, and actually it does that automatically. The problem if you don't have this sort of like keyword specification with this list of functions and variables, what happens is that Glitch will interpret most of the p5.js basic functions as an error. It will be like, I don't know anything that is called background because it is not a pure JavaScript function. So just leave the stuff here. It's just like keep it in the project. What I was about to say, right now if you are accessing this project, this p5 empty from your own account, you'll be essentially unable to modify it because you don't have access to my project specifically. What you should do instead is essentially like opening this menu here and remix the project. That creates an identical copy of this project in your own account. So it will appear among your own sketches. Somewhere here, yeah, in your projects. So that's a kind of like the kind of process. You get to the p5 empty project and you clone it so you don't have to recreate this simple situation from scratch. Yeah. In order to properly code your project, in order to create your project, you should do this. You should first give it a name, something like, I don't know, I'm gonna call it tests. Oh boy, everything is named text. Okay, so tests, for example. You can add a description here if you want, but it's not super important. In order to code, you usually want to have a shared view. So you want to be able to see almost immediately what your changes are. In this case, I'm just creating a canvas of background color 100, which is a kind of gray. If I change it to 0, it will almost immediately refresh it and update my project. So this is pretty sweet, and it works more or less exactly as the P5 editor. Basically, you're making a change, and it is immediately reflected in the side of the window. But in order to do so, you have to make sure that you do show next to the code. You can also show in a new window if you really want to have like a full view. It will open an entirely new tab, and you'll be sort of like seeing it full screen. Say that my sketch is something like, I don't know, line, mouse X, mouse Y, width divided by 2, height divided by 2. Here I'm basically creating, let's give the background color, I'm kind of like an off-white so you can see the difference. Here I'm just creating a line that goes from the mouse position to the center of the sketch. This is the easiest, the simplest sketch you can create. Now, there is another thing that you want to do in order to properly debug your sketches. So debugging works in P5 works like this. So, oops. I guess it will be console log. Not nice. You will essentially like shoot a message out in the console by typing console.log.hello. In some environment you can do print. You can use the keyword print instead of console log, but in Glitch it will just immediately launch a printing option, so you want to avoid that. Anyway, how do you see this output message? To me, the easiest way is to just open the JavaScript inspector here. So if you right-click the JavaScript inspector in the console, so if you right-click on this particular frame where your sketch appears, you can do inspect, or there are like a bunch of different shortcuts for that, but it will open in some parts, like sometimes it's on the sidebar, sometimes it might appear on the right side. I like to keep it down here, and you should be able to see a console that is basically your debugging messages. For example, in this case, it's hello.